Welcome one and all to The Movie Guys. Paul Preston here for another TMG interview. I am joined by Mary Gent, frequent contributor to the pages of themovieguys.net, now appearing physically to help me with a great interview today. 2021 marks the 30th anniversary of the legendary music documentary Madonna, Truth or Dare. The follow-up documentary, Strike a Pose, revisited the 7 male dancers from Madonna's Blond Ambition tour to examine what happened to them after the tour and the madness ended. To celebrate Truth or Dare's milestone, Strike a Pose is getting a re-release via virtual cinema on May 21st. So please welcome to talk about it, Reijer Zwaan, who co-directed the film with Esther Gould, and one of the Blond Ambition dancers in the center of it all, Kevin Stea. Thank you for coming.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Let's get right to it with Reijer, because of course this film was born out of a previous film. So what inspired you to pick up the phone and examine the lives of the dancers who are part of this pop culture and music moment?
Yeah, well, like you say, it's a pop historical film, Truth or Dare. So the short answer is that a great film from 1991 and especially a great group of great men inspired Esther and me to revisit them and hear their stories all these years later. And we were fascinated by Truth or Dare when it came out. I was only 11 years old when I first saw it in cinemas in Amsterdam. So it was this look into this world where everything was possible, and it was so fun-loving and bold.
I was also 11. Just want to put it out there, right, Mary? As well. We were all 11.
Excuse me.
So was I.
Right, exactly.
Forever 11. And then when we reached out and heard about their real stories, but also finding out that so many people around the world were looking for them, talking about them, because, well, basically they had inspired so many people to, in a way, be yourself and express yourself. And that was the starting point for Strike a Pose. And of course, we learned that there was so much more to it than we knew when we started out. And every time we spoke to one of the dancers and to Gabriel's mother, Sue, because Gabriel passed away in 1995, but Sue told his story, we were just blown away by, well, all of it. They're a very special man.
I was Kevin, and we're all the three. We're the same age, so we weren't 11. When the film came out, I was 20. So it was at that point I'd already had, I was living with 2 gay men. One was a drag queen, one was gay that I knew from grade school. My whole life was blown apart by this film because it was so bold. And I saw it at the theater, and I remember thinking, this just changed everything. And it was so well done. Alex did a wonderful job with the film, but also it wasn't about Madonna. It was, who are these other people, right? So who are these dancers and these backup singers that really, Kevin, really spoke to all of us. So for me, that film was always iconic. So when Strike a Pose came out, I was so happy that someone found them. Like, where are these men, right? And so Reijer, I went to one of the premieres at, I think it was the New Art. And Kevin, you were there with Carlton and Luis. So I was there for the Q&A. I guess this is for you, Reijer. Who did you start with? Who did you find first?
Esther and I actually reached out to all 6 dancers and to Sue Trupin almost at the same time. And we wrote them very carefully written letters, because we wanted to make clear in that first letter that this was not a film idea at that point about Madonna or even about Truth or Dare, but it was about them. It would be about them. And we reached out to see if we could meet. So we just said that we would be in the US and would love to meet and talk about this film idea we had. I remember that Kevin might have been the very first one who responded. Yes, that he was open to talking to us, which was different from saying, yes, I want to be in your documentary film, which did of course not exist at that point. And then from there on, step by step, and it took us over a year before we had talked to all 6 of them and to Sue, Gabriel's mom. So, and it was very different for each of them. Kevin can explain, of course, much better, but some were enthusiastic about the idea because it had been such a long time, and it felt good to talk to us about it. Others were more were holding back a bit more. I think mostly Jose and Luis, because they had been approached many times before, because they had been so close to Madonna for quite some years and felt like, oh no, not again.
Right.
But in the end, they all decided to be a part of it. And I know for sure now that they all feel good about doing that, because a lot happened in reconnecting and reliving what happened all these years before.
Was there any part of the film that eluded you? Was there a part you wanted to explore or examine, or people you wanted to talk to who you couldn't get? That's always an interesting part of a documentary, I think. You set up with this plan, and there are roadblocks, then you have to creatively sort of bob and weave.
Well, we definitely had creative roadblocks, but mostly in weaving this story about 7 exceptional men into one film. And we really wanted to make it a film that was not a film for Madonna fans, but something that would reach a larger audience and connect to more people. So we had a hard time doing that, just because it's complicated to edit a film like that. We never had the idea to make Madonna a part of the film, because it would have been a completely different film if we would have. So it was really about these guys and their story, and about overcoming shame and accepting yourself and showing yourself to the world and to be proud. We did reach out to Madonna in a very late stage of filming, because we thought maybe there can be some kind of reunion, a reunion scene, maybe even. But she never responded to that. And again, this was not something that we regretted, because we were really fine with the exceptional stories of the 7 dancers.
You made a beautiful film.
Thank you so much.
A really beautiful film.
And you talk about acceptance, and so that we're going to weave Kevin in here, because I want to talk about the dynamic between all the dancers. Oliver is very forthcoming as being the one straight dancer in the troupe, and how he had a different opinion of gay people before he got involved in the tour, and came out with yet another opinion as if he had evolved. And that's good to see. And I was curious how that happened. Kevin, did you make any attempts to sort of say, hey, maybe we got to bring this guy into the fold and make him feel comfortable? Or was it just, did it happen naturally? Was it just humanity that made it happen? What was your relationship with him in that respect?
Well, after we slept together, he just said, it's not so bad.
Ah, you little queen.
I think well, me and Oliver kind of both had the same sort of experience where, you know, I was questioning at the time. I'd actually just broken up with my girlfriend, and I'd fooled around with some guys, but I had no experience in the romantic department. Just sort of I had sexual attraction, didn't know that romance would ever even be on the table. And so I think for both of us, exploring the world and seeing the world and this whole rainbow of community, of people who were literally just being themselves, and they were gay, and they were lesbian, and they were trans, we didn't define who they were, that opened up both our eyes. I know Oliver got to understand that, you know, he was very confronted at first, because Jose and Luis and Salim were relentless in torturing him about being straight, and just, I mean, in a way
Terrible.
that only New York queens can.
Yes.
And he also saw Gabriel and I more quiet, more reserved, not as flamboyant as the guys from New York, and also constantly kind of taking his side and defending him and sharing and involving him in our lives, and come with us. If they don't want you hanging out with them, we love you anyways, come on, hang out with us. He saw that it wasn't about how you act. It's just you, it's part of your personality. It's part of just a small aspect of who you are. And he really got that on a very powerful level. And also that, you know, that we love him regardless of whether he's confronted by us or not.
Since you just said that it was kind of your first experience as well as a gay man, did this tour kind of solidify that? Like, where were you at? Because you were young. I mean, we're the same age. So you were young back then. So what was that like for you?
Well, I was 19. And I remember, you know, again, they were teasing me relentlessly too, because I was also very open about my questioning.
Okay, so you were still questioning, you weren't out.
I wasn't out at all, because I didn't, it wasn't that I was out or in, I didn't know. I hadn't been around it enough to say one way or the other. I knew I liked girls still, I was still dating girls. And I kissed a friend of mine he asked to kiss me, but back when I was 16, he asked to kiss me. And I was like, oh, okay, because whatever, try anything, whatever. And we kissed, and it was the most awkward, strange thing. It was nice, but it felt so weird and awkward. Like, I was like, oh, I guess I'm not gay, because this is totally weird and I'm not into this. And it took many years to understand that that was just because I considered him a friend and I wasn't really sexually attracted to him. And so it felt like kissing my brother, and felt very strange and weird and awkward. And I thought that meant, oh, well, I guess I'm not gay. Maybe I like, you know, fooling around with guys, but romantically, I don't know if I can have that relationship. So on tour was actually the first time that I met somebody and kissed them, and was like, oh, I have feelings for this person also.
Was that Gabriel?
No.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Although I have feelings for Gabriel, they're not the same feelings. Gabriel had he had a boyfriend already. I already know his boyfriend and everything. I love Gabriel. We've never, you know, nothing like that. But I kissed this guy in New York, and then I was like, okay, I can see myself, you know, there's a term somebody came up with that they were like, that you're biromantic, or I know, it all sort of clicked for me. And also seeing everybody across the world and all these varieties of people, it gave me the freedom to say, I don't have to be this or that, or this stereotype that I see on TV that's being represented in the media constantly. I thought being gay meant I had to be that, or that's what would happen to me. And once I got clear that I'm the only one who can say who I am, or create who I am, and be who I'm going to be, that I finally was like, oh yes, this feels right. This is me. And I'm not a label. I'm not, it's just another aspect of me.
One thing I didn't see was conflict creatively in either of these films, and that was actually impressive. First of all, like the sexual dynamics of a theater troupe, gay, straight, man, we all know what's going on. It's it's some high level emotion. But it was interesting to see behind the scenes of the film, and outside of some technical issues, you never see the dancers arguing about, oh, you didn't do this, or you missed that kick, and da-da-da. You're the dance captain, Kevin. So was there any of that just was missed, or was it a smooth sail as it looked? I mean, even in Strike a Pose, you didn't meet and then go, hey, remember 30 years ago, you did that kick me in the face? Like it just never came up. What was the difference there?
It was not a smooth sailing at all.
Okay, that makes sense too.
No, I would say let's say Jose and Luis especially, did not want to be told what to do.
Because they came from the ballroom culture, right? So it was like,
yeah, everything's a competition.
Right.
Everything's me over you. I'm the father, mother, you know, grand, whatever. I'm
house of. Yeah.
It's me against you. I'm this gang versus that, that house. Like, it's confrontational. And I'm a double Libra, so everything's about no conflict. It's all gonna work. It's all gonna, I'm balancing everybody's personalities and everything's gonna get along. Like, I really go out of my way to not cause conflict. But I also have a great skill at making everybody do what I want and love what I'm doing. And also make them think it's their idea that they're doing. So that helped in this situation, because then they got to feel like they were doing what they wanted and I was still getting what I wanted. And it was not an easy road. And even now, when we got together all these years later, it's the same dynamics. They still don't want to be told what to do. And I, on some level, I still kind of push myself to do what I want to do. But I'm not, I don't have the handle of dance captain and an associate choreographer. So I don't really have that authority in the background. And so, yeah, that definitely caused some conflict, in the later iterations of our relationships. But I think we all respect each other so much now that we do listen on a different level.
I mean, that's all I wanted during Strike a Pose was, God, these guys got to get together. They got to get together again.
Right?
Just kind of waiting for that the whole movie.
Yeah.
And then, but since that, any reunion that happens in the movie, either naturally or maybe Reijer orchestrated with the release of the film, have there been other reunions? And have you ever danced together again? I'm curious about that too.
Yeah, there's been a few times, actually. I mean, we all sort of jumped on board the sort of, the film release tour. Like, we really were, in different countries together, not all together all the time. Certainly 3 of us at a time, 2 of us, 4 of us. But one time we were actually all together. It was in Amsterdam, and we went on the Late Show. Reijer, was that then? On the Late Show. And we did the Vogue choreography again. And we've done that a few times since, in like small portions of us. Like, I think we did the Good Morning America or something, me, Jose, and Salim, in a couple of different places. We kind of reviewed that choreography.
You can find the full group with the 6 of them on YouTube with the Late Show, which was the very first time they danced together again after all these years.
Was that emotional?
Emotional. I mean, interestingly, I had just done the choreography like a year earlier, because I had given an award to Vince Patterson, and the piece I created, the whole show I created for him, involved all these different pieces of different things. And so I actually took the choreography from the MTV Awards and remounted it to share with people, not as Vince's choreography, but as part of his like oeuvre and history. And so it was really fresh for me. I don't know, it was emotional. It was just so much more emotional seeing my other brothers and being around them. That's where the real emotion came in. It didn't feel so grand because the stage was like, smaller than my bedroom. It was tiny, tiny, tiny. We could barely move. And I mean, I got a kick out of it. But yeah, it was just more emotional just being with them and walking the streets with them, and again, seeing the world through each other's eyes.
Reijer, how is your voguing? We haven't checked in with you to see how, when you vogue, how it
Yeah,
goes.
Reijer.
You noted that I fell a bit silent, right?
Didn't jump in on that.
That's the one thing you don't want to see me do, or maybe there are more things. No, but we, of course,
I want to see you do that.
Oh, I've done it.
Anything. I would give anything for that.
We called our film Strike a Pose, which is of course a Vogue related expression, and I mean, of course, there's so much about Truth or Dare and the Blonde Ambition tour that stands out, but I think voguing, and of course coming from the house ballroom scene, but the way it was brought into the world is still a very awe-inspiring thing, and I love the idea or feelings behind it, and what it stands for, but I'm not good at doing it, at striking poses.
You know when I did get emotional doing that number was when I redid it. I did it with Rihanna for Fashion Rocks. And that was the first time I'd done the choreography in, I think it was maybe 15 years later. So it's like 2005 or something, it's like 6. And doing that choreography with a whole other generation of dancers who had seen that choreography, had grown up with that choreography and remembered it. And they were so moved by it and their ability and their opportunity to do it, like that they never thought they'd get to do that kind of choreography. That was really touching to see. That was kind of the first time I saw the impact that our work had on a new generation of dancers.
So I'm going to segue into something because it kind of has something, it has something to do with that is, and Reijer, you also included this scene in Strike a Pose, is the moment that Alex Kaseshian filmed you at the Pride Parade in New York. For me, no matter how many times I've seen Truth or Dare, doesn't matter. It always makes me cry because, you know, as an advocate and a lover of gay men, I've buried so many. But so Kevin, you were there, you were 20 years old. Was this A, your first Pride Parade? B, it was different. You know, I've been to all the prides. It was different back then, right? It was more serious, light, but serious. And the moment of silence is deafening, if that makes any sense. So how did that affect you at your age, standing there amongst all of these beautiful humans during the middle of a plague, being caught on camera for an iconic film?
It was my first Pride Parade. And there was a full whirlwind going on in my head at that moment, because I didn't even know Pride Parades existed. And I had lived in Singapore prior to going to school at USC and really didn't have that much access to media. I didn't own a TV for years. And so, especially in Singapore where there was no, like, we don't have, AIDS doesn't exist here and there's no cases of anything here. Being in that space and really getting the magnitude and gravity of the situation. And you could see, you know, people, you know, sharing their stories and being who they wanted to be and expressing themselves, and also sharing, you know, people that passed and honoring people that passed. It was mind-blowing to me. You know, again, in Los Angeles, I had never been to a Pride Parade there, didn't know it was even going on. So seeing all this at once, I mean, it may have seemed like it was totally normal for me, like watching it, but I was absorbed. I was absorbed in this, and it was really a powerful moment for me, realizing that owning one's identity and sexuality on some level is a very political statement, but also that there's power in doing it. There's power in the declaration of saying who you are. And celebrating who you are. And you could see all these people walking the streets and just a crazy variety of people shouting to the world who they are and that they're proud of who they are. It was very empowering, and it gave me a lot of inspiration moving forward to be politically active and socially active and more outspoken about who I am, and, you know, and empower others to do the same.
And also the power of showing it. I think both Alex Kaseshian, the director of Truth or Dare, and Madonna, to make that part of that film, not only the 6 gay guys who were on tour, but also moments like the moment of silence and remembrance during the Gay Pride, and their stories. Also the remembrance of Keith Haring, a friend that Madonna had lost, and not only Madonna, but shortly before that. And there's so much in that film that even now makes a huge impression on many people. But if you realize, like back then, it was not shown that much, wasn't seen from this. So I think it's so important to show it and to have this documented as well.
Agreed.
Yeah, and to show it in 25 years later, revisit it all and strike a pose. So you mentioned reuniting with the dancers as the film gets out there. Were there any screenings that were more meaningful than others? What was the original run of the film like? I know you won some awards as well.
Yeah, the film premiered at the Berlinale, the Berlin Film Festival, and that was a moment we'll never forget, because it was the first time that the dancers saw the film. So it was, of course, exciting for all of us. And it was very emotional, again, for all of us, but also for the audience. So I've never seen a Q&A actually like it, but people didn't really ask questions, but more explained how it had touched them and made them emotional. And I remember someone asking all 6 of them to strike, and they did, and the crowd just went wild. And it was really, I mean, I think Kevin is, again, he can explain what he saw that night, but they saw each other's story and they hadn't known most of it. And of course, Gabriel not being there, but being a big part of the film, and his mother. So yeah, that was a huge happening for all of us. And then, I mean, I haven't been to all the screenings, but it was at Hot Dogs in Canada. Kevin was there. There was another very special moment. We were in New York. Well, it went all over the world, which is such a special feeling, and we're still very proud of that. And again, that the film is still can be seen 5 years after the premiere, of course, because of the 30th anniversary of Truth or Dare. But it Strike a Pose now has a re-release, so in virtual cinemas, it can be found again, and that makes us really happy, because it's something that we're very proud of.
And you should be, because it was beautiful. And for someone like me, I went by myself, I sat in the theater, and as I'm trying not to do now, just, you brought this beautiful, I mean, Kevin and Reijer, like, first of all, Kevin, I'm sure that you've been asked this question 1,000 times, but you were part of something so huge, and you probably didn't know it at the time, right? So to see, Reijer, you bringing these men back together, these men that were just dancers, and yet we were so intrinsically involved in who they were, bringing them back together, and then finding out the truth, right? Uncovering the truth, the stories of these men that we did not know that was happening during the filming, Kevin, and you presented it in such a way that it was like, it was holy almost. It was silent and beautiful, and you gave them space, and you held space for them.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah, there is a decided difference in tone. I mean, we talked about this, Mary and I did, as we were gearing up for this, that one is a music documentary and one is this soulful documentary about people. So it was it is a great job of getting inside these Kevin icons. Yeah, I hate it. You are. Sorry, Kevin.
Sorry, Kevin.
That's just what's up. So
you are
iconic. I mean, this was one of the biggest tours of all time, and you're super
hands down.
Did you handle it? I mean, I don't know. I might be like in therapy. I mean, I don't know. It's just outside of anything with your personal identity, just like, the rush of the people and the fans and the media and the whole thing. Or did you just take it in stride because you had a family with you?
On the actual tour, there was no real time to sit back and like celebrate ourselves, because we really didn't get that much information. By the time the press was coming out about the show in whatever city we were in, we were already into the next city. So we would hear little bits and pieces from, Madonna would say a little something like, oh, now it's number, or Liz would come and say, oh, the song hit #1, yay. Well, what does that mean? I don't know what it meant. You're like, okay, great, yay, that's great. We have a #1 song and we're on the road. Obviously there were tons of screaming fans, and I never realized how popular she was until seeing these hundreds of thousands of screaming fans. I was blown away, actually. I didn't realize at all she was on that level of fame and popularity. Of course, the number one song like that will do it, and a great show. But there was no, for me, there was no sense of that it was about us at all. I mean, obviously there were signs, yay, and people recognized us, but on some level, even until Strike a Pose came out, I just always dismissed everything as it's about her. You know, it's about her and her job, her work, you know, her fame, her popularity. And so everything that came my way over all those years, compliments and whatnot, was more like, okay, I'm a Madonna fan. And I would brush it off. You know, it wasn't until literally that night at Berlinale that everything clicked. And it was like this wave of love and reassessment of all these years of compliments and comments and people coming to us and messages, and that all of that was transformed and like, oh my God, that all was for us. You know, not always, sometimes it was for her, certainly, but it was like, wow, we are so loved and so grateful. And I mean, seeing each other's stories up on the screen that we had never heard before, hadn't seen before, the love, the suffering, the self-judgment, the shame, the triumph. I mean, we were in, I mean, I was sitting next to Carl, and we were in tears half the movie, but tears of joy, you know, finally kind of understanding each other's stories in a way that perhaps they would never share with us on a personal level. Because we didn't necessarily have that rapport after all these years. And of course, you know, Reijer and Esther pulled so much out of us on such a profound, deep and personal, intimate level that we got to see each other in ways that we thought we knew each other. And suddenly we were presented with these brothers and friends that we thought we knew, that we realized, oh, fuck, I don't know you at all. Do I? You're so much more than I ever gave you credit for. I think we all looked at each other like, God damn, you all are fucking amazing people. And we hadn't really given each other that opportunity to be that. Even maybe after the reunion and everything, we still kind of kept them in a bit of a box until we saw each other's stories presented that way. It was an incredible experience. Like, my heart just, you know, crumbled and exploded at the same time. During that screening. So
For
thank
us,
you, Esther.
Yes, but for me, when I went to see Truth or Dare, I already loved Madonna and got in trouble for listening to her by my mother, of course, when I was a little girl. But you guys were the focus, and I think even like you said back then, we were like, who are these people? Like, forget Madonna. Like, who are these incredibly exciting and fun and eccentric and quirky and talented and beautiful and bold and brave people? So from the beginning, it was always about you guys, I think, for most of us. And that's like incredible and kind of unheard of. Like, Madonna was the side plate. You guys were the main. You know what I mean?
Well, I thank Alec for that. I think,
yes.
You know, I keep going back to Alec because this really is all his point of view.
Yeah.
And him being a gay man and being aware that our story is as important as hers, and that there's something that can be said and you know, a truth that can be shared in a way that no one's seen it before. It really is a big tribute to his tenacity and vision. Obviously Madonna too, yes, she's the one who brought us all together. Her willingness to share diversity and to put forth a dance ensemble that wasn't necessarily standard, and to really elevate us up to the level of stars of our own movie. was also incredibly bold. And I'm not sure that anyone else, you know, before or after has had the sort of the balls to really share, you know, the diversity of our community and world that maybe hasn't had the opportunity to be shown and seen and revealed in an empowered way.
I think the artist with the biggest balls in the 80s is Madonna is a perfectly accurate sentence.
Absolutely.
I only have a couple more questions because, again, I don't want to keep you guys here forever, but I did want to talk about something Mary and I were chatting. You want to ask like the time capsule question? Because I love that.
I know you love that question. So watching Truth or Dare, right? It is a time capsule. And for us Gen Xers over here, there were no cell phones, right? Zero cell phones. And I won't go off on my own. I won't get up on the pulpit. But anyways, what makes that film so incredible is to go back in time and to watch the audience. It's like being at a tent revival. But with hundreds and thousands of people just absolutely 100% locked in and crying and just being right there. They're with you the whole time. Like that. I mean, Kevin, that must have been like breathtaking, you know? And especially because what Madonna did was her theatrical performance of that tour is unprecedented, in my opinion. You know, she was telling a story, and she brought it all over the world, and you couldn't tape it. You know what I mean? You just had to be part of it and be kind of hypnotized by the whole thing. And that is gone. That's gone. So
Can you do that anymore?
I don't know that you can. I think there's something very powerful about both the performer and the audience being 100% present, that engages sort of this energy back and forth, that's hard to replicate. But I think even more so, not having cell phones or our other lives with us as we went made us a more powerful unit and group. We had no one but each other. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to call so-and-so back home. It was like, no, it was just us. And I think that made us more cohesive, and really that family that Madonna created for us, really that aspect of it showed through on stage. And she also gave us, she and Vince, thank you, Vince Patterson, the choreographer, co-director of the show, really gave each of us moments to shine and share and you know, like moments like, you know, Keep It Together, where we all connected as a family, like really got to see each other. I think it was very special. And I don't know that the audience looking through their cell phone would see the intimacy of each of us looking at each other as we were dancing. And we knew it was the end of the show, relating to her, looking right in each other's eyes, hugging her. I don't know that if you're on your phone that you would get that relationship. And hopefully having that presence made a difference for them. It certainly did for us.
And I've said the only other time I experienced that was about 5 years ago. I went to see Neil Diamond, but that's just because everybody was 75 and didn't have phones. But same thing. But they were locked on Neil, man. He had him in the palm of his hand.
It's because they couldn't see.
Yeah, that's true too.
Like, is he on stage?
That's Neil Diamond, honey. Oh, I like him.
I believe actually Madonna on her last tour, the Madame X tour, there was a theater tour, and she asked people to hand in their phone, so no one in the room had a phone. And I believe it's because of this time capsule idea, where it was just you in the room together or in the stadium. I don't know if it worked out like that, but that was the idea that I read about.
Yeah, some artists have done that. I know that Jack White did that too, where he made everybody put their phones in like a little zip, like whatever this new technology is. And people that gave him blow back, and he was like, I don't care. You're here to see, we're here to experience something. So yeah, I think there's a lot of artists out there that kind of feel the same way.
Well, again, the film is Strike a Pose, and I'll give more info on that in a second. But I always wrap up these conversations with, unless Mary, there's anything else you wanted to
I just
throw
have
out?
one. I'm sorry. I
Leon,
just have
one last question.
it's for Reijer. So Reijer, this was your this was your directorial debut, yes?
Yeah.
And so clearly you were so passionate about this subject matter to push you through. And were you satisfied with what came out of your beautiful film?
Yes, I was.
Good.
Yeah, I think it's magical to make a film and feel so, like you say, passionate about it and about the people in it, and doing it together with Esther, who's an experienced filmmaker. And I always had in mind, if we can get across to just one person what we feel about them and their story and about what this is all about, then I'm the happiest person in the world. And it turned out that there were many more people than just one who got it, and that was the feeling that we had on that first premiere night in Berlin, but also afterwards, all these years actually, that people have reached out to tell us what Strike a Pose has meant to them. So I think that's the best feeling that anyone can have, and I'm proud and happy, but also because that story is still out there, and I think I just want as many people as possible to hear about it and to see it and to, well, experience what Esther and I have experienced in making it. And it's well, there's something to be seen, I believe.
And who is
Yes.
your editor on a documentary? Always shout out to the editor.
Shout out to the editor, definitely. And her name is Dorit Vinken, and she's a Dutch editor. And well, she was amazing and really helped us to build the film into the story it is.
It's always a massive juggling of content when you're a documentary editor. So congrats to her. But the last question I ask everybody who comes on a Movie Guys interview, and it's kind of just switching, taking a tangent entirely. Each of you, as you're inspired to tell me, what is your favorite movie of all time?
It's the worst question in the world.
It's the greatest question in the world.
It's the worst.
She's right also.
I mean,
The torture
I
you're experiencing.
want to break stuff. I'm like, are you joking?
The torture you're experiencing is accurate. Experiencing those is accurate. It's right on.
The first movie that came to mind, which is not actually my favorite movie, but it's the first movie that came to mind, whatever, it's off the cuff, was Flash Gordon. It's not my favorite movie,
but the soundtrack is so good.
It's stuck in my head. I don't know why. It's so kitschy.
You know, what's your favorite movie of all time right now isn't a wrong answer. So there you go.
Right.
Reijer.
Oh, this is just the most horrible question ever. And
Thank
I'm
you.
the first person to ask it to, because In Bed with Madonna or Truth or Dare. No, honestly, I can't. Sorry.
It's okay. Don't feel bad. I can't either.
I'm
A lot of
just,
people, some people cheat and give me like
Citizen
4.
Kane, Citizen Kane, or like you go to the classics or North by Northwest, or
How about this? Can we rephrase this, Paul?
Sure.
Do you mind?
There's all sorts of cheating.
Okay.
allowed.
Can we do this? What was your favorite movie this year?
has there been a movie this year?
I mean, 2020. Let's say 2020. Let's say 2020, Kevin. 2020.
Oh,
Because
God.
there was a lot of films. I know what mine is, but I'll let y'all go first.
Well, actually,
That's even harder.
I'll tell you mine though to jumpstart the conversation. It was one
Okay.
one night in Miami. Regina King's film about Muhammad Ali and Sam Cooke and Malcolm X and Jim Brown all meeting in a hotel room based on a play that the guys in that film acted that movie insanely well and made talk about huge topics seem conversational. I loved it.
Mine was Another Round. Druk, the Danish film with Mads Mikkelsen, directed by Thomas Vinterberg. And I pushed that film on everybody I knew because I thought it was the most beautiful film I had seen in ages. And what a performance from all of them. So that's mine.
I'm gonna totally agree on that. That's really one of the best films I've seen in ages.
Mhm.
And I've also seen quite a lot beautiful documentaries, and one that should be seen is Honeyland, which is about, I don't know the English word, someone who makes honey.
Beekeeper.
A beekeeper in Macedonia, but it's about so much more. And it's a really well-made film where a beekeeper, a woman, is followed through years and years, and then her world is teared upside down by new neighbors. But this very small story tells you so much about the world we live in. So that's a beautiful film.
Oh, great.
I don't know if I can't even think of anything offhand. All my movies, I know I'm not a great movie watcher. I love big sound effects and sci-fi and fantasy and horror. And like, I want to see the craziness. The drama stuff, I often skip just because I'm like, there's enough drama in my own life. I want to escape. I don't need to see it in a movie. I could be touched by it, but they have to be like prepared. I'm also sort of empathic, and so if I go through watching a movie that's really heavy, it will stick with me for days. So I have to like literally put time aside for like, okay, am I going to be in this mood for 2 or 3 more days? Yeah.
Well, enjoy Mortal Kombat in theaters now. There you go.
I already thought it was horrible.
All right, well, that wraps another TMG interview. Follow us on Twitter at The Movie Guys, Facebook.com/The Movie Guys, Instagram, all that nonsense for daily jokes and articles, media links, and more. Thanks to Kevin Stea and Reijer Zwaan. Thank you very much.
Thank
and
you both.
Throw us your plugs. What do you got in terms of social or what's coming up? I'll plug the movie in a sec, but personally, you got anything?
Reijer?
You can follow me on Twitter, which is my first and last name, Reijer Zwaan.
You can follow me on Instagram at Kevin Stea, on Twitter as That Rogue Romeo. You can follow my music at www.thatrogueromeo or at www.kevinstea.com. If you do a search for Kevin Stea, you'll probably find me on lots of different platforms. Yeah.
I did. It all came up. Yeah, your website, the socials. So
I'm not on socials, so sorry.
Follow what she's up to. There's plenty of archives of Mary's great writing talking about films and stuff on themovieguys.net. And of course, filmmovement.com is where you can go to see Strike a Pose as of May 21st. And there's a 30-day trial. So if you just love movies, get on there and just check it out. You'll have a streaming subscription to everything they have there. And then it's like $5.99 a month. You haven't gotten movies that cheap. So jump on board that. And you can find everything we're up to at themovieguys.net. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Reijer. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you
so much. That was really nice.
Thank you for your beautiful film.